Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, our daily yoga podcast with your host Raghunath and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Dasa. Welcome to the show, and welcome to Sleep In Sunday. I slept until 4:30 today. I even tried, Kaustubha, to sleep in today, but you know, get into those habits of waking up early. I'm like, okay, keep sleeping. It's good for you. You need sleep. Have you noticed there's a whole new sleep movement going on? Like, sleep more. Everybody must sleep. It drives me insane. I'm always saying the opposite. Cheat sleep. Cheat the sleep.
Okay.
Cheat it.
I think maybe you do need a little sleep right now.
And we have a special guest. On Sundays, we have special guest day. And what more of a special guest than Vaisesika Prabhu. Vaisesika Prabhu, he's a initiating guru of so many close people in our life, including Madhu, who we love so dearly.
Madhu, he's regularly on our Patreon thing, doing the kirtan sometimes, doing Ayurveda sometimes. Right?
Oh, Maharaj, before you give one statement, let me just give you an official bio. Then Kaustubha will give the unofficial bio. Then we can share you with the world here. Vaisesika Prabhu is a yogi, an author, and he travels and speaks throughout the world, sharing knowledge gained from 4 decades of sincere Bhakti yoga practice, and a dedication to spiritual entrepreneurialism. With the perspective of a former monk and business owner who sits on boards of several nonprofits, he speaks at corporations like Salesforce, Intel, and Google, and universities like Stanford and Berkeley, teaching universal principles, sacred individualism, spiritual awakening, and enlightened engagement with the world. Renowned for his wisdom and inspiring speech, he has a way of making ancient yoga wisdom and practices relevant for modern times. Everybody that knows him says that about him.
It's true.
And I've only met him once, but his name precedes him because he's loved by so many. I only met him once at the airport in Newark. We were waiting for a flight to India together. Welcome to the show, Maharaj. Good to see you.
Oh, Raghunath, thank you very much. It's so nice to be here with you.
So, Stuvji, would you like to share something?
Yeah, well, I'll just share a little bit more. In one sense, I give credit for Wisdom of the Sages to Vaisesika Prabhu because really, on so many levels I appreciate you, Prabhu. Vaisesika Prabhu is he's kind of like a walking personification of the Bhagavatam or the Bhagavad Gita. We call
all
this
the cantos together or just one?
I think all of them, and he's really lives it. And it manifests in him at every moment. He's really always coming from a very high spiritual level. I've only ever seen him come from that level. He's kind of it may not show entirely here on the screen, but if he stood up, he's like a big guy. He's like a linebacker or something like that. But he's got very, kind of I would say a childlike innocence about him that's very endearing, but just brilliant and one of the clearest thinking people that I know, and you can't you can't be in Vaisesika Prabhu's presence and be in illusion or be confused or be, waste your time. His presence just doesn't allow that.
I'm looking forward to that.
Okay, we got an hour here, right? So
I
hopefully
can't be an illusion. Okay,
it'll
good.
be good. But I also say that I give him credit for kind of being the seed of.
Others will read down testimony from a third drive.
What is that, Raghunath? What are you doing over there?
It's not me.
Okay.
Mara?
But I give him credit for being kind of the seed for Wisdom of the Sages, because he just encourages people to read Srila Prabhupada's books, and he does it with just this. It's not the kind of encouragement that kind of like annoys you, but it's the kind of encouragement that makes you feel like, oh man, he's so right. I really should be doing that. And because of his encouragement, my wife Gita Priya and I were. This was early last year. We started reading Srimad Bhagavatam like 80 verses a day. If you read 80 verses a day, you read the entire Bhagavatam in 6 months. He's the kind of person that he's figured all that out. Like, hey,
Bhagavatam math.
You can work your way through this and you'll be better off for it. And so then you called me and said, I want to do a little something online early in the mornings for just a few friends. What do you think I ought to do? And I said, do Bhagavatam every day, right? And that's how Wisdom of the Sages got started. So thank you.
Leading by example.
Yeah.
Leading by example. Thank you so much, and thanks for joining us.
Oh boy, well, I'm really touched, and I hope I can live up to your introduction, even a fraction. And it's just really heartening to be here with everybody and see your faces and feel your presence. And thank you, Raghunath and Kaustubha Prabhu, for keeping this space open to everybody and everybody that's on your team.
Yeah, Mara.
And one of the first things I noticed coming in here was the importance of attention. That's the first principle that I'm going to talk about, because it's inherent, and it's a aspect that I like to describe as our only asset. If you consider all the things that you have and that are usable in your life, and what is it actually that's inherently yours? I mean, I could argue that actually the main thing that each of us has that is ours and that we get to make a decision about is where we place our attention. And a phrase I learned many, many years ago that I carry around in my pocket is something I'd like to give to you today.
Please.
Take around in your pocket, and that is, where attention goes, energy flows. So we're all going somewhere, and we're all moving at every moment, but how do we decide where we're going? In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Yanti deva vrta devam pitern yanti pratirvata, bhutani yanti puteja, yanti mam yajino bimam, which means you could go wherever you like. It's up to you. And he's talking to us as a conscious being and say, you're free. You can move, you're free to move about the universe. And how do we go that in a particular direction? It has to do with where we're placing our attention in any given second.
Okay, you've got my attention now, for sure. No, but I missed something. I just want to hear again. You said attention is our only
asset.
It's our only asset. We don't. What about our money? What about our
worthless? 401k, stocks, bonds, precious metals, nothing. Those aren't assets.
Yeah, they're. I'm counting an asset as that which is inherently yours, which means you get to keep it.
Oh.
Okay.
And that's what you have full control over.
Okay.
Ultimately. And then really that's yoga. Yoga means alignment and coming in contact with who you really are and what's your source. And what's really required in that is becoming aware of the power of your own attention. And just to add a little bit of strength to that, the word attention, you have the 10 word within that. As you do in your body, you have tendons that connect muscle and bone. That's the connecting point.
Right.
So we similarly connect to the world through where we place our attention. And let me just give you some examples. I was walking with my wife Nirakula, because we walk every evening during this. We're still locked down out here in California.
Right.
For some
You got the
reason.
fires going on too in your area,
Fires. I mean, don't get me started and naming all the things.
Yeah.
So we were walking, and I was going on about attention and thinking about it. And then as we walk by in our suburban neighborhood, what if I look in somebody's window? I mean, what if I'm walking by somebody's house and I just I look in and somebody's in there. How do they feel if I'm looking inside their window? What's the reaction?
Invaded upon?
Yeah.
Violated.
Violated?
Or how about this? How about if you're driving, what's the main
I do that sometimes.
thoroughfare there in New York that everyone can...
Broadway, yeah.
Okay, you're going down Broadway, you're sitting as a passenger in the car, and then you look to the car next to you, and you look at the driver in there, and you just put your gaze there. What's going to happen?
I guess their attention will go to me.
Yeah, but give me something more visceral. Like, what's the reaction in New York if you see somebody staring at you from the car next to you? What happens?
They get angry. They get offended. What are you looking at?
Come on, that's amazing.
Right?
What just happened there? I like right now, you see everybody looking in the screen. And what if you're just able to connect to somebody's eyes right now and look at them? It's dangerous, actually.
Yeah.
In a room, when we sit around in a room, oftentimes we do this experiment. We say, just for 1 second, don't try to do it for any longer. Look at somebody right in the eyes and just see what happens. And the energy in the room starts to ripple. And then when people actually make that connection eye to eye, you see it explode, because there's something combustible there that's coming from your glance.
What should we do?
Glance.
What should we do about that? Not look at them?
Is that a good thing?
That's
Is it a
the
bad
point,
thing?
Raghunath. What should we do about it? Exactly. That's the question to ask. And that's yoga. That's what it's all about. What should I do about my attention?
So it's got power, you're saying. It's got power.
It's power. In fact, let's go to Bhagavad Gita.
Okay.
Ayadhyakshena prakriti suyate sacharacharam. I'm quoting the Sanskrit for authenticity.
Mm-hmm.
And here we have a statement made by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita where he's saying this whole world is working because of my, wait for it, glance.
Yeah.
It's all happening from mayadhyakshena. Aksha means from thy eyes. So there's a glance from our original conscious source. And when that comes into the dead world, the whole world starts to move because of that, the attention coming from the Supreme. And just this morning when Raghunath, you're going through this, you're giving your attention to every person on this call. And then there's this connection that happens immediately, heart to heart.
We thought we thought we were going to stop that when we turned this into a podcast. Before it was just a Zoom class every day. And to say hello to everybody, it takes time. And so I put it out there. It's not very practical. Do people think I should just stop doing it? And everyone was saying, no, it's nice. There's something about that personal connection. And I know my kids, when they went to the Waldorf school, they trained the children to shake the teacher's hand and say, and look them in the eyes and say, good morning. Good morning. Because there's a lot of just like, people don't look at each other anymore.
Mm. I love that. And Bhakti Yoga says there is nothing but the personal connection. You can dispense with everything else, but the personal connection is what is the essence of everything. In fact, there are famous verses in the Bhagavatam. For instance, Yene Ravanaksha Vamuktamaninas Tvayastabhava Avashudaya Aruya Krishna Parampadam Pata Patantyato Nadrata Yushmanangraya, which essentially says that unless you give personal attention to your original conscious source, Krishna, and you get that in return, that reciprocation, then any other kind of restraint that you try to make through austerities, any other kind of arrangement you make in this world won't be sustainable, because the main thing that sustains us is that personal attention and connection.
Okay, then what do we do with it now? With that power?
Yeah,
of
well, that's the
attention?
question to keep asking at every moment. What am I doing with my attention? I mean,
Where's my attention?
yeah, where's my attention going? Because where attention goes,
Energy flows.
Well, you know what Raghunath's been doing for this Purushottam Mas, Vaisesika Prabhu?
no.
He's taken this very firm vow that he just will not allow any kind of mundane sound vibration to enter into his ears, right? You were
It
even
doesn't mean I don't like mundane sound vibration. I love mundane sound vibration.
okay.
You know, like a rat likes cheese on a mouse trap.
Okay.
You know, but what's going on is I just walk around with these earbuds on and I just play lectures or audiobooks of only transcendental one, Mahabharata, Ramayan, Srimad Bhagavatam, or lectures, and that's what I put in my ears in my downtime, and I walk around and just hear that. Drives some people in my family crazy because I can't listen to anything else. But there's like, I'm serious. Even if I go to the bathroom, if I go in the kitchen and cutting vegetables, they're always in there just playing these things. And I'm always getting valuable chunks of information. And my mind, which naturally just, you know, sometimes you're going in the bathroom or you're brushing your teeth or something, and the mind's just like foggy, dull, bringing up weird desires. Who knows what's floating around in the mind. Now there's like someone talking to me, giving me food, superfoods for the ears. And it's been a very, very interesting experiment, especially if I like open Instagram and there's a bunch of like nonsense stuff that I want to listen to, and I'm like, oh no, I'm fasting from this. It's like a fast. It's like a fast, and it's been a great experiment.
It's brilliant. And I love the way you say experiment, because really, if you think about, we are non-neural, we are non-temporal, non-chemical conscious entities, and we're in a particular body, which is specifically meant to be a laboratory so we can experiment with consciousness.
Oh, that's...
And you know, one of the main experiments is what you're doing right now. I mean, really, that's the Bhakti experiment, which is how am I going to fix my attention, and especially on the sound that we hear. That's the most transformative. The Ishopanishad, one of the oldest books known to the world, says Anyad Evohor Sambhavad, Anyarahor Asambhavad. That, listen, little conscious entity, the consequences of where you place your attention, especially what you listen to, are great. One result is obtained by putting your attention to low sound, and a completely different result comes from hearing high sound, or sound that is from the fourth dimension. It's from beyond this world. And there's a lyric from a song, I believe it's from the 80s, from David Byrne, in which he says, I don't know what you expect staring into the TV set. It comes from a song, Burning Down the House.
Talking Heads.
I think of that often, that lyric. I don't know what you expect staring into the TV set. So it's like, if I'm looking at my life and I'm saying, how did I get here? How did I get in this situation I'm now? Then the very commonsensical wisdom literatures of the past are speaking very clearly and simply and saying, it's where you're placing your attention. If you're listening to low sound, if you're staring mindlessly and scrolling into nothing and just getting fragmental information, what do you expect? That's where you're going to go. That's why we go in a particular place, because where attention goes,
energy flows.
Energy flows. All our energy goes where we decide to place our attention at any given moment. And all the practices of bhakti are really meant to fortify our strength to place our attention, like Raghunath is doing, in a particular place. Why does he make a vow like that? Because he's informed that, you know, there's going to be a difference here, right?
Well, I make a vow like that because I'm attracted to mundane sound. And 2 years, I had a really good, 2 years ago, I had a really good, another experiment, but it was an unplanned experiment. My wife got a new car. It got free Sirius FM. Are you familiar with that? It's like a paid radio station. Mara's laughing because she knows the story already. But I was just like flicking through the channels, and it went right to one of those where they dramatize real life crimes. And then he walked in the door with the knife. Clip, clop, clip, clop. The door opened. A man and a woman were there. He pulled out the knife. And they, like, really, it's really graphic, murderous things. And people love them. And it was like gripping. It was very gripping. And the kids weren't in the car, so I listened to the whole thing. And then it's a thriller. It leaves you off. And it's one of these things. It's like, and it's an unsolved mystery. Like, and then nothing happened. They never found him. And
that means he's wandering around right now.
Here's the sad thing.
Okay.
I saved the channel. You know how you can store channels? I stored it. And then I was like, man, this is horrible, but, you know, it was attractive. So after I picked up the kids and I dropped them off, I sat in the car and just listened to this thing again. It became incredible. And then then I would, like, literally just go into my car so I could hear this stuff. And then, and the whole time, the little angel on my shoulder, there's like a Swami on my shoulder, and then there's like a
Howard Stern on the other one or something.
And the Swami was saying, you know the power of sound. Don't listen to this stuff. It's going to take you down. And I was like, shut up, Swami. I'm listening to Kamsa. And so I went for 1 week of listening to this stuff. And I tell you, at nighttime, I'd go to bed, I'm thinking, someone's going to murder me. I'm going to murder somebody. And I'm looking around the streets like, everybody's murdering everybody around here. I was like, I bet that guy's a murderer. And I started becoming incredibly conscious of murderous people, death. I can't trust anybody. Everybody's a criminal. Maybe I'm a criminal. Maybe I'm deeply. And I tell you, in the name of just like an attractive, interesting thing. Well, I think, you know, it's good to know about things. You know, it's good to know about the world. You know what? It's not. It's not good to know about these things. Let police officers, military people who are in charge of these, let them worry about that. The more I just became riddled with anxiety. And finally I was like, it's over. I'm not going to do this to myself. I want to trust people. I want to love people. I want to be good to people. It was junk food. I was getting I
would say that the Bhagavad Gita, it tells us how the world works. And the Yoga Sutras by Patanjali is telling us how the mechanism works that you're describing. You know, you're describing the result of it. Very interestingly, going on a macro level, how is it that we are born into a particular body in a particular place? And really it has to do with the phenomenon you're speaking about now. And I'm taking in or ingesting, if you will, particular sound vibrations and sights by my choice at any particular time. And that creates an impression within my chitta, or the very subtle mind space that I have. That's like a cloud, meaning the cloud that stores information that you take in. And then if you imagine wet sand and you're walking on sand and leaving impressions with your feet, then Patanjali says the body that we get is the filling in of the impressions that we already have within our chitta. So all the impressions start to make a mold, and that mold gets filled in with this stuff we have here. This is material nature, and it's accommodating us. So if I'm ill-informed and I don't know what I'm doing by looking around, taking in impressions, I'm creating those impressions and I'm going in a particular way. The environment is benevolent. It's actually fulfilling whatever we want. So sometimes I do this experiment in corporate classes that we have everyone, you can try it now, everyone now imagine, please, for a moment, that you're sitting underneath what's called a kalpavriksha. You can close your eyes for a second. A kalpavriksha is a beautiful, wish-fulfilling tree, and it'll fulfill any desire that you have. And you're sitting comfortably there, and someone's informed you of the efficacy of this tree. And then the question comes, what do you want? What is it that you want? Okay, you can open your eyes again. And normally when I ask this question, and I'm the one watching the audience with their eyes closed, I see a jolt go through the audience oftentimes where people realize, I have no idea what I want in this moment. How could I answer such a question? And that's another aspect to what you're talking about. I'm taking in various sound vibrations, and it leads to a consequence. There's a sequence that takes place after I initiate the process of putting my attention in a particular place, and then it takes me in a direction, and then I'm just going there, and I'm not even sure why. So this bhakti process means there is a place to put your attention. There's an object to look at where you'll actually get everything that you want that's good for you, and you'll feel satisfied.
Okay, I have a question now.
That's good.
Vaisesika Prabhu. So now, okay, I'm convinced. You've clarified things for me here, that that I have this power of attention, that it's so valuable that I'm likely wasting it, or at least to a large degree, just letting this incredibly powerful tool just slip through my fingers. If I'm a beginner to this path, if I've developed, like say a lot of our listeners, maybe they've developed an interest in bhakti right now, and we're moving into this month. We're in Purushottam now. We're going to go into Kartik. A lot of people take vows, or you set an intention. Maybe you're saying experiment. So generally, an experiment is for a certain amount of time. You make a little experiment. Is there something that you could advise people to do for a segment of time to practice bringing their attention to something higher on the path of bhakti?
One thing is to start the morning with an affirmation. There's a way that when we first open our eyes in the morning, the mind is looking for some place to go. And I always like to say that we're not the same person when we wake up that we were when we went to sleep. Because who knows how many far-flung places we travel to in our astral body when we're sleeping. And so we get a little disoriented.
Your astral body is traveling around?
Hold it.
I'm just,
now we've got a diversion here. You got Raghunath going.
something very interesting here. I want to just get to the bottom of it. We're flying places?
Yeah, it is the body is like if you leave your car idling somewhere and you run in to get something from the cleaner or something, you come back out again. There's a way that the body goes on with its various functions, whereas in our subtle body, which of course, as Kaustubha Prabhu was saying, it's a big topic, but we're perhaps I could just simplify and say that we could be slightly disoriented when we wake up. So one technique that I have that's very practical is set yourself up for the morning the night before. When I was young and our family would go on vacation, my father would make us clean the whole house completely before we'd leave. And as a kid, I was saying, why do we have to clean the house? We're leaving. And then I remember after 2 weeks of vacation, we come back into the house, and then I'd say, wow, who cleaned the house? That was really nice, whoever did it. In the same way, when I set up what I'm going to do in the morning, the night before, as soon as I wake up, and I have a regimen from the time that my mind comes to the surface, and I know what I'm going to do, I feel grateful for that person the night before who got things set up for me. So to answer your specific question, Kaustubha, there's a way in which if I plan the first things that I say as soon as my mind comes to awareness in the morning, and I say a mantra, a transcendental mantra, and then there are other affirmations to get started. That's the first step in the morning that I think is really important. Before you actually swing out of bed and put your foot on the floor, it orients.
What are your mantras?
Well, the first mantra I say is Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So I say those two transcendental mantras first thing, before my mind starts to say, why don't you do this and that, listen to a mystery story or anything else.
Starts thinking about murder or anything.
Murder maybe? Morning murder?
And then there's a way in which I put together the things that I'm going to do, the spiritual practices. For instance, reading Bhagavad Gita in the morning is really important to me. And so I actually take the Bhagavad Gita and I put it out on a table so that it's there. I deliberately put it there. And I
Like
also
the night before, or
yeah, the night before. So
Okay.
anything that I plan to read or hear or do, I put in a little stack, because that way I get up and my mind is like an unruly child and says, I want to do this and that. Say, oh, it's already, the schedule's already set. Here's what we're doing first.
Right.
Yeah.
It's useful. Morning
That's-
rituals.
Yeah, very nice. Okay. You know, we have this thing Raghunath started called Makeover Monday.
Yeah.
Wisdom of the Sages. So like every Monday, we just talk about, and we even have like on our Discord thread, there's a thread that's like a lot of people follow and participate in, and we have a Makeover Monday thread on that where people share just like these intentions that they said, okay, for this week, let me not do this, or let me do this, you know.
For this week, we break it down in little bite-sized chunks. Instead of this year I'm going to do this, we say this week, just this week, and then we re-evaluate on Monday, every Monday.
Wow, that's nice.
It's been useful for me.
Okay, so Vaisesika, now you've brought our attention to the power of attention and how serious this is and how valuable and potentially powerful it is. What is the next key that you will share for us?
Attitude.
Attitude, attention, and then attitude.
Yeah, attitude is, a definition, a settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior. I'll read it one more time.
Please.
A settled way of thinking or feeling about someone or something, typically one that is reflected in a person's behavior.
Okay.
And in one of his writings, Srila Prabhupada says that advancement in bhakti yoga is dependent on the attitude of the practitioner. So there's a it's interesting. I mean, what is an attitude? Can you get a little meter and measure it? When we meet people, we can subtly ascertain what kind of attitude the person has. It's very subtle, but it makes all the difference in aligning us. So adjusting attitude, fortunately, is something that we can actually do. If we become aware of the fact that I have an attitude, I'm carrying it around with me, it's a choice that I'm making to have an attitude, and I can adjust it. So that's one of the points that is made in the wisdom literatures like Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, that adjust your attitude, and the world around you will adjust accordingly.
I have a question about that.
Me too. I'm in line from you after you.
Okay. We had on Saturdays we do questions and answers. And we got a really great, very sincere, honest question from a lady named Lorraine from Luxembourg yesterday, right?
Luxembourg.
And actually she wrote I don't know if you saw, but she wrote back to us. Did you see that? Did you see it, Mara? She wrote it was a Krishna miracle. She had a Krishna miracle.
Oh, did she?
Yeah, I won't go into it now. She had a Krishna miracle.
Okay.
But she wrote an appreciative response. But her question was that she had her heart broken by someone, a person that she had really invested so much time and energy in her heart and soul, and then this person just betrayed her in just a cruel and callous way. And she was saying that I'm hearing you speak your philosophy and it makes sense, everything, but inside me, I almost can't help it. I want to know that this person is going to pay, that their karma is going to come, and that they are going to feel it.
Wanted revenge, or she
Yeah,
wanted.
that was in her. So that's an attitude, I suppose, right? Would you? And it seems hard to change that. You're saying that you can. That you're saying it almost like you can flip a switch and change your attitude. You can tune this. It's a dial, and you can. But I think for a lot of us, it's really hard to do that. Is there some advice you can give us to?
Yeah, well,
how
definitely
do
take
that?
practice.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, my heart goes out to that woman who felt that pain, because to one degree or another, we've all felt such pain, and it's nothing to be, just shrugged off like, oh, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
In fact, it reminds me of a story of one of my godbrothers when we were living in an ashram in St. Louis, and he had the flu, and he had a high fever, he was a senior practitioner monk, and there was a brand new person who had recently joined the ashram and had this conception, oh, you're not your body, you're not your mind. So lying on the floor, this person with the fever groaned in pain of fever. And the new person looked over to him and said, you know what? You're not your body.
Right.
And my godbrother, with all his strength, got up on one elbow and he looked over, gave the glance, and he said, Prabhu, you're not my body either. So, you know, these pronouncements, just do this, just do that, are easy enough to say, but, you know, when we're actually feeling the pain ourselves, then it's consequential, and it's very difficult to come out of that. But there is a way in which, through the practice of bhakti, much of it is hearing from the Bhagavad Gita, wisdom literatures that actually help us to experience some of the trauma of the material world and then process it. There's a process that it goes through and a practice through which we can come to adjust the attitude. And it doesn't happen with the flip of a switch unless one's really practiced in it over many, many years. There, you know, just as if you cut your arm, there's going to be some healing process. And so similarly in our subtle body, when something happens to us, it's not that yogis don't feel pain or suffering, it's just that they're able to objectify the healing process and see that it's taking place.
And so you're saying, so that's a practice like anything else. The more you do it, the easier it becomes, the quicker. At some point, it may almost be like flipping a switch.
Yes, and much of it has to do with perspective, how I'm viewing what I'm doing here, and how I'm passing through the world. You know, it makes a big difference. Like if you get on a train and you're only going to be there for 15 minutes, and then there's a squabble over who gets what seat. You know, if you have this idea that I'm only on this train for 15 minutes, why bother? Why not just stand up and deal with it? Then it's not such a big issue, you know? Yeah. So if my perspective in the world is that this is, I'm here forever and this is everything, then it's harder for me to adjust my attitude. That's why Bhagavad Gita helps.
You know, Raghunath, he shared this story before, where one of his first times he visited an ashram, and someone said to him, like, we just need to give this one life. You know, he's like, yeah, but one life is everything. What are you talking about?
You just need to give one life to Krishna.
But you read Bhagavatam, and actually it does begin to shift. Actually, this one lifetime is just a very short thing. Let me give this all. Right?
Yeah. Well, yes, and I just want to go back. What was her name?
Lorraine.
Lorraine, yes. Yeah. And back to that position. So it's not that. I wanted to mention that because bhakti really is personal, and the fact that we do have feelings, and we're able to notice those feelings, and especially when there's trauma in our life, if we're able to orient that and towards understanding that I have a sacred individualism. I'm actually a person. I have feelings. That's the human experience, and that's why bhakti is so good for humans, is because we do feel. We're not meant to become nothing. We're actually meant to experience the depth of our feeling. And so if we're able to look at it in that context, oh, I'm sentient, which means I'm sensitive. And I have senses, and I really feel things, and then get an idea, like, what do intense feelings, what are they like when they're properly aligned? When they're aligned with my original conscious source, who's love personified, who's the one who's, if I can use that same emotion, if I can connect it, what would that be like? What's that experience like? Yeah. So thinking like that can help process it in those times. And there is a grieving process that one goes through. And I always advocate go through that. Just like if your arm gets cut, doesn't matter if you're a yogi, you still have to heal. You have to take that time.
I came home on Christmas.
Specific ideas about attitude, but I'll talk about that in a second. Please go ahead.
I came home on Christmas after being a monk in India to my Italian Catholic family. And my mother said, "What are you learning in that ashram?" And I said, "I learned you're not my mother."
It didn't go over well.
It didn't go over well. But can I ask my question about attitude?
Oh, please.
About attitude, because I get a good attitude. I think it was passed on to me by my mother. My mother loves everybody. She talks to anybody she meets on the street. You know, she's got friends. Everybody knows her. She lives in New York City. She's 94, and she's like, she out talks me. If you know her, you know what I'm talking about. She's one of the few people that can out talk me. And I like people. I genuinely like people. But recently, somebody I let close, they did a number on me. And some friend said, "You know what your problem is, Raghunath? You got this. You think you got a good attitude. You let people too close to you. You got to keep people at a distance. You let everybody in your life, and you trust too much." That's what they said. Is there a thing about trusting too much? I always thought that was a good quality.
Well, the human experience is a little messy. I was just talking to somebody last night about a community. I live in a devotional community out here, and it's going well. I mean, we're really happy. We've developed it over many years. But
what does that mean, a spiritual community? Like a city block? Or does it mean like a farm, a commune?
Well, actually, we live in Silicon Valley, and the community is spread out geographically.
Okay.
But in purpose, we're united, and we come together at a central location. And nowadays, obviously we meet online more and things like that. But there's a sense of connectedness amongst all the members who come from various backgrounds. And that's what I mean by community.
Okay. That's what we're doing here, I guess.
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
But like these guys right here, I let these guys in my house. I don't even know Vegan Truck. I was up David Charles Wilson. I met him once. I know him online. I see their faces every day. Am I crazy for letting these guys in my house? Having them come? We're hanging out all day. We're doing, we're going to be burning things. And
they could be murderers for all you know.
They could be murderers. Should I put a buffer up?
Yeah, I think that what I find is when the most interesting and endearing humans are those who are vulnerable, and also, and that includes willing to talk about themselves and also let other people into their lives. And in that process, there's going to be some, we're going to, experience things when people violate that or not. And it's really part of what I was talking about before, that whole holistic way of living. And as long as we, look at it in the right context, and see how we're using our relationships and our emotions and everything and where they're coming from, then it's a natural consequence of just being with people. And we're personalists, so we want to have that connection, and it's going to mean that there's going to be some anomalies while we're doing it as well.
So let them in. So let them in.
Well, you have to. It's your nature. I mean, you're not going to stop. Everyone has a particular nature, the way they deal with the world and with people, and that's one of the reasons people are attracted to you, is because you have that nature.
We love you just the way you are, Raghunath.
I love you too.
Okay.
All of you.
I have a couple of points about attitude that
yes.
They're mantra-esque. And
okay.
I like those because it's practical. It's something you can take in your pocket. I just want to see what's one mantra I gave already that you can take away.
That where attention goes, energy flows.
We do this. Yes. We have a whole bunch of them too. We call them hashtags, tattoos, mugs, T-shirts. What are yours? We want to. Maybe we will. What's it called?
Steal them.
Steal them. It's called stealing your mantras and taking them as our mantras.
Just as I've stolen them, you may steal also. Okay, so one of them, which, Kaustubha, you said flipping a switch. Is it really as easy as flipping a switch? And yes and no. Let me say the yes part, because the no part I always have to give as a preface, so it doesn't sound like glib, just like, just do it. But here's one that actually you can try out, and that is in the way of flipping a switch, is to develop a service mind.
Service mind.
Develop a service mind.
Now, let's just say you go to a gathering with your family, and you go there with the idea of, I want to be the center of attention. I want to be noticed. I want them to remember, what a great son, daughter I am, something like that. Mm-hmm. And those expectations often aren't met. However, if I go with the attitude, when I go here, how can I be of service to those who are here in this gathering today?
Service.
The experience will be vastly different. And that not only will I notice it, but everybody else in the room will notice it. And it's an approach to the world, and that's bhakti.
That is a great one.
Yeah?
Steal it, Raghunath.
Service mind. Mara, neck tattoo. Service mind.
By tomorrow, we want to see that.
Neck tattoo,
It's more of a forehead thing, I think.
Service
Back
mind.
piece. She's been thinking about a big back piece.
What else you got? What else you got, Maharaj?
Okay, I have another mantra for you, but it's very dangerous.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're able to say it from behind muted mics, and if you're with somebody in the room somewhere, I dare you to say it to them.
Just do it.
Should I keep going, Kaustubha and Raghunath? I don't know. This is a little edgy stuff.
Either that, or we should just say break right here.
I'm bringing something edgy.
We can break right here, and we'll definitely get people to come back next week.
Yeah, actually, we are out of time, so.
No, I need to know the mantra.
Okay,
let's hear. If I should say it. It's a little too intense for this show. Let's move on.
This is one of your more intense shows out here.
All right.
You're seeing like the cleaned up version right now.
Okay, all right. I'll do it. You guys, you have a way of double teaming here. And
That's right.
All right, so here it is. Get ready, everybody. I want you to say this first to yourself, and then I want you to, if there's anybody with you, turn to that person and say it. And if you don't have anybody in the room, then you can save it for later when you meet them. Okay. Are you all ready?
Ready.
Yeah.
Okay.
Say it to yourself first. Ready?
I live to be corrected.
Oh, that's a hard one. That's the whole thing.
Now see, don't walk. Go ahead, try it. Say it.
Let me do it.
I want to see your lips moving.
I live to be
Andrew and Kate are doing it there.
I live to be correct. Do I get
It's
to
hard
correct
say
as
to your
well?
Spouse, isn't it? You say to your spouse, "What did I just do now?"
Write that one down.
Yeah.
This is consequential. It's very consequential, and it goes to attitude. See, this is one of the main teachings of bhakti, is that I live to be corrected. It comes in a famous verse in the Bhagavatam, Tatteun Kampam Jani Vatmikritam Vipakam, which says, look I'm here to refine myself. I live to be corrected. And I heard it on an interview on NPR radio, and there was this really intelligent scientist from Oklahoma, and he referred to himself as an Okie. And the interviewer, Michael Krasny, said, "Oh, wait a minute! I don't think you should say that in the name of political correctness." He said, "Well, I am an Okie, but but then he stopped before he defended himself more, and he said, "Anyway, I live to be corrected." And I said, "That's my new mantra. I'm stealing it." And I pulled over the car. I wrote it down in my little notebook that I always carry with me in my pocket, like this.
Yes.
And I found that it's a pivotal mantra. If you keep that going when you're moving about, and it doesn't mean, let me give also a disclaimer, it doesn't mean to become a doormat to every single person and situation, but it does mean to adjust the attitude that what's the lesson in this? Because we're always asking questions, and there's two questions that can come up as I ramble on here. One is, why me? Now, this is coming from that little weakened ego part of me that says, why me, why me, why me? And it doesn't go anywhere. It doesn't help. But the other question is, and this goes to this mantra, is what is the lesson? What is the lesson? Questions are the answer. And if I ask the right questions, I'm able to actually get the real juice of life. So that's one of the attitude adjustments that you can make anytime. This morning, you can tattoo it on your arm.
You know that it sounds, you got to think about it, right? Because when you hear it, it sounds like it's like you're adopting a weakness. But really, when you dig deeper, you see this is the real strength right here, isn't it? Right?
Okay.
Yes.
Can I
It's
question this one though? I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. But let me question this one.
all right.
What about people that hate your guts? Do you really want to be corrected by them? Because they don't
Well-
even see you. They don't even see your. They're making even your good qualities a bad quality. What do you do?
Okay. Yeah, well, Alan Parsons Project, I think 1980s. I'm not sure. Maybe.
Okay, a little
I
prog
don't
rock here.
care. I don't. A lyric. It's in my chitta. It's stored in there. I don't care what you do. I wouldn't want to be like you. You know, so that's a lesson. I look in it. You know, if you look at ancient scripts, Bible, Srimad Bhagavatam, there's lessons from be like these people. Don't be like those people. That's a lesson also. I'm looking and I'm
Oh,
saying,
gotcha.
what's
You're corrected by
yeah.
by their presence, not necessarily by their instruction to you.
Well, the reason that I react to people in a visceral way when I see something like that is it's some quality in me also, and it's reflecting your, like that old saying, your mate is your mirror. And so, you know, why do I react to it? Is because oh yeah, maybe there's something in me. So being self-reflecting when you're in the company of somebody who's an enemy or who's you know, assaulting you in a certain way, to see you know, how am I doing this to others? You know, what is the, I'll give you an example if I may. I mean, one of the worst kinds of assault in this world is inattention, going back to the attention. In fact, there's a saying by a Holocaust survivor. He said, the opposite of love is not hate, it's indifference. And so the whole existential experience I'm having here in the material world, the darkness comes from this indifference to my original conscious source, Krishna, who's love personified. And so because I'm not giving attention. So one day I was in my garden here in suburban California, and a little bird flew into the window, through the window in the kitchen, and I saw it happen. And I thought, wild birds do not belong in homes. It's not an accommodating space for them.
Do they come into your? Do you allow them in your home, Raghunath? You got a lot of animals in there.
Yeah, they can. They can come in.
Okay. Yeah.
I'll
It's a
send them
special
out your
home.
direction from now on.
Okay.
So I went in and I tried to free the bird, and the window made a noise opening. The bird was scared, went into the next room. Same scenario in each room of the house, coming all the way back to the kitchen. And before the bird noticed the window and flew out, he looked at me as if to say, you tried to kill me, you're a terrorist, but I'm going to get free, and went out the window. And I had one of those epiphanies when I sat down and I thought, that's me. All these circumstances in the world, the changes I take as disasters and I take as the world's against me. Actually, if I change my attitude towards Bhagavatam and see that there is a hand that's moving things in a benevolent way, and I'm not seeing them, but I reorient towards that. And I thought, you know, how long have I been doing that? Being indifferent or misinterpreting good intentions.
This is, so in other words, what I'm gathering, it's opening up for me now. It's opening. So when we say I live to be corrected, it's not mean like, okay, correct me, like you're talking to, like, it's like that in a general, life is about being corrected. And in general, life is about becoming better and improving and advancing. And it can be through a person or through nature or through so many different ways.
Both, I'd say, Kaustubha,
Yeah.
because I do advocate using the mantra verbally in certain circumstances, because the tendency of my mind is when somebody's giving me good instruction, my mind saying, when this person will stop talking, then I'll say something actually of value. And I'm not really listening ever. That you know, that chatter of the false ego is like,
Right.
you know, when is this person going to stop? And I know something better than this person.
I'm guilty of that. I'm hesitant to stop you now. but actually I will, just to say this. There's one. Time is running a little low now, and you've given us two keys so far. Attention was one.
What is the third key, Master?
Third key,
Attitude was the second. Attention, attitude. Number 3,
application.
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 It just, it's the magic of being human, that we can actually apply some learning that we get. So Prabhupada used to say there's 2 things you need to transform and to improve, and that's knowledge and practice. So how do you apply it? There's a paradigm that I think of often when I'm taking up learning something, and that is when we start learning, we're unconsciously incompetent. Unconsciously incompetent. And then when we get stimulated by hearing a show like this, we hear the Bhagavad Gita, somebody who's doing better than we are in some way, and we think, oh, I want to be like that. Then we become consciously incompetent. That's a big breakthrough. I'm conscious that I'm incompetent now.
Even if we're incompetent, that's still a great step.
Well, to be conscious of it is.
Yeah, right.
To be conscious,
Change.
unconsciously incompetent is a really scary place to be, because where are we? We're just drifting, and that's ignorance. So when we get a little bit of stimulation, help from somebody else that's on a higher level, I become consciously incompetent. And isn't that a great day to realize I don't want to be like this anymore? I actually want to improve myself, right? So then comes the practice and the application. And then from there, we become consciously competent after some practice, and then we become unconsciously competent. So just to know that there's a progression in practice that's always there in any discipline that we take up, and it starts with the awareness that I really am not good at this. So feel free to be bad before you get good. That's one thing that always helps me. Like with people who learn a language, it's proven that you learn the language if you're willing to make mistakes. Because how are you going to learn unless you say all kinds of things that somebody then corrects you and say, no, you said it wrong. And then that's how you learn. So you have to be willing to go forward. So I advocate it to overcome inertia in the practice, which comes sort of naturally to me. Inertia, procrastination, and all these types of things is mini habits.
Mini habits.
And get started with something that's so small. It's like in homeopathy, there's this idea that the diluted active ingredient, it's so dilute that it's just one molecule, and then it has some effect. I don't know how homeopathy works actually, but I know the theory.
I don't even know what it is, so.
Yeah.
No.
Keep on diluting.
There you have it.
It takes like 25 or something. You're diluted so many times. You just have an essence of that was, and that essence becomes the essence of the toxic thing becomes the cure of it.
Yeah. So here's all this theory. How do
Wow.
I put it into operation? It seems unwieldy. It seems insurmountable. So start with a molecule. Start with the smallest thing that you can. And that will have its effect, because bhakti is potent. The practice, putting your attention, your intention into the chanting, into prayer and things like that, it has an inordinate effect. So start with the tiniest little move that you can make, because that helps to overcome the mind's resistance that always says, like, you can't do this. And if you try, I'm going to come back and, really get on you, really get on you. So you starting with these tiny little things, and I compare it to a wedge. A wedge has a really small end and then widens. And if you just enter into the smallest area of your life where you can right now, a crack that's open, because I don't have any time, right? I can't do spiritual practice, because my life is consumed with other things, not the least of which is I need my screen time and whatever else my mind demands. But find one tiny little crack and insert the practice there. Like, for instance, chanting is a very important thing, and do it a little bit, and then apply a tiny little bit of pressure like you do to a wedge. And as you do, the space starts to open up miraculously and becomes bigger and bigger.
Sometimes we just think about too much and we never get started. But you're saying just get your foot in the door, and it starts
Yeah.
to grow.
Well, you gave an example in the beginning. There's so many books to read,
Yeah.
and at least in our area of the tradition. And if you look at the whole bookcase, like the one behind me, it's full of books. And if you look at it, you say, yes, someday maybe, but I couldn't read all those. And this is another, this is mind blowing as far as how practice can be effective. My Prabhupada used to say, drops a day, wear the stone away. So I have this experience of,
Like that one?
Drops a day, wear the stone.
drops a day, wear the stone away. So every year at this time, normally, this is the first year after 20 years, I'm not in India at this time, we have this retreat where we several of us, maybe 20 of us, stay in one ashram. It's kind of a hidden place at Govardhan Hill.
I was there one year.
Yeah, you came. I mean, that was the best year ever.
Come on.
In my humble opinion.
For me, it was.
And then, we read. We do this reading out loud for 5 hours a day together. And that when I look at a book, look how thin a page is. And you'll notice that if you look at a page, you say, how could I possibly get from one side of the book to the other? If a page is so thin, it's inconsequential. It doesn't make any difference. But people read books all the time. How do you do it? One page at a time.
One page at a time.
And so with bhakti practice, or any discipline really, but it's really potent with bhakti because everything you do with intentionality, even if it's a molecule, will move you in that direction. So one little page at a time, just calculate it, and do what you can.
Well, you see, you've got this energy, Prabhu, that like you got your own natural enthusiasm, and you'd say, hey, just try this one thing, and then people are like, okay, I'll try it, and I think staying connected with you, kind of gives us a strength to kind of like keep going on that. Like I've been there reading 5 hours a day. Come on, like most people don't want to do that, but when you're around someone that's got that enthusiasm, it's like, yeah, let's read some more, right? Like when you turn to me and say, hey, Kaustubha, why don't we read this right now? I'm like, okay, bring it on.
I have to hang out with people who are doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
People that help me raise my bar.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, there's a saying that if you're the smartest one in the room, you're in the wrong room. And I always, if you try to get in a room where people are smarter than you are, because you come up, and then the tendency is if I hang out with people who are operating on a lower level, of course, if you're there, for a higher purpose and everyone agrees on it, it's nice. But otherwise, I don't get pulled up, as you're saying, Raghunath.
Raghunath and I, we operate low on a high level. Right.
Kaustubha's higher, so I feel good. Kaustubha, you have some problems here because you're hanging out with me all the time.
No. But like Bhagavatam, that's like a high level.
Went to private school. They only give her, they only fed her the finest choice things.
Well, she was at that time she was high on a low level. Now she's high on a high level.
What a day! What a day!
Okay, hey, but we got to give a plug now. Now, Vaisesika, our chat board is blowing up. People are demanding that we don't end this show. Like
They're
about 20 people.
banging on the door, basically. If there was a door here, they'd be kicking and banging. No, keep it going.
There's a whole lot of positivity going on. So unfortunately, we do have to end the show at some point. But I want to connect people with you.
How do they do that?
What's the best way to find you online?
Well, I have two websites. One of them is my name, Vaisesika Dasa.
That's VAI.
Okay.
VAISESIKADASA.com. And then the other one's called fanthespark.com.
That's easy to remember.
And I'm also on Facebook with those there are websites there. And there is also two Facebooks. One of them's Fan the Spark, and the other one's called Vaisesika Dasa.
And you got some kind of 21-day challenge going on too, is that correct?
Yeah, I do a program for corporates every week.
Okay.
We talk with Salesforce and Google and Intel, and they're into this thing called the 21-day fitness challenge, spiritual fitness challenge.
Spiritual fitness.
Spiritual fitness.
Will I lose weight on your spiritual fitness challenge?
Definitely lose weight. You'll run faster, jump higher. We guarantee all benefits from this program. But It has to do with body, mind, and spirit. So we talk about all three because all three are important in spiritual practice. We can't neglect any aspect of our existence.
Okay.
And so we have that spiritual fitness challenge that you can check out through those programs.
Okay.
Good.
Yeah.
You know, and just like I was just saying, one little bit of proof about like, you know, we're sitting here, we're associating with you, we're seeing a person. Mode of tamaguna is just not in your vocabulary practically. You're setting mini, what did you call it? Mini
habits.
Mini habits, and I see your mini habits have grown into macro, you know, lifestyle, and just to show like how your intention grows and expands in the world. Because I was thinking, you know, recently on, you know, on Wisdom of the Sages, we participated in this Bhajra Purnima, where many of our people, I think from our Wisdom of the Sages community, 40 people donated, you know, like $300 to distribute, gift a set of Srimad Bhagavatams to another person. So I think about 40 or even a little bit more, I think, people from the Wisdom of the Sages community. Now, this was really springing from your own inspiration to like say, hey, let's get these books out there. Let's get the Bhagavatam out there.
Let's spread knowledge. Let's spread direction. It's the highest welfare work.
And that was just something born in your mind and in your heart. And this year it kind of really took off. Last year it was something. This year, like, how many sets of Srimad Bhagavatam are distributed for Bhajra Purnima this year?
This year we distributed 23,000 sets.
23,000.
I got a little proud of those 40.
Well, you know, really our
Pretty good.
our endeavor over the last 5 years or so has been to build a global community that is into sharing these literatures around the world. So we've developed an infrastructure, and it's not so easy on a multinational level because of the languages, the difference in currencies, the difference in cultures. But it's been a very edifying experience connecting together people all over the world who want to build this pipeline so we can get this kind of spiritual information out to as many people as possible.
Can you just, before we quit, could you just share, everybody that's tuning in here, we got, you know, 100 something here today, and then, you know, quite a few thousand people listen every day. They're here, they're listening to Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam's new for a lot of them. It's kind of a new thing. Teachings of Bhakti are a little bit new, but they're into it. They're tuning in every day. Just a few words of encouragement for our listeners.
Well, if you want to avoid the pitfalls of life and actually go through all the psychological changes preemptively, you can read Bhagavatam, because Bhagavatam understands us more than anybody. And there's a kindred soul there that's talking to us through Bhagavatam in many different voices, taking us through all the life scenarios that we could possibly go through on our own and then fall on our face, and then showing us. And as we experience them through the Bhagavatam, then we become inoculated or, you know, sorry, I hate to bring up the word vaccinated. Sorry about that. Oops, I blew the whole show now. You know, from this, you know, the turbulence of material life, we're able to live vicariously through the Bhagavatam and actually come to a higher level of perspective and wisdom through that. So it's very, very practical. It's not just theoretical knowledge. It's actually a journey, an experience that you take. So I recommend that you read it systematically. We developed this program. It's an app. It's a free app for iOS and whatever that other one is. And you can download it. It's called Be a Sage Page by Page.
Be a Sage Page by Page. It's free?
Yes, it's a free app. And it helps guide you through reading the Srimad Bhagavatam and many other wisdom books that are there.
Put you on a regimen, right?
Yeah, a regimen. You know, it's if you take a few pages a day, or you get on a set course and you just mark it every day and you go through the Bhagavatam, it'll become real in your life.
You know what happened through that Bhajra Purnima is, if you look probably on your screen, if you look down maybe on the bottom row, you see Isabella Bilodeau, our friend. She's tuning in every day. And Isabel, she gifted a set to, you know, our friend Eddie Stern, who's been on the show. We did a great show with Eddie. And he's a person that's been collecting, you know, and studying this literature for so long, but now he's got a whole set of Bhagavatam, and he set an intention. He's reads 60 verses a day. He's working his way through.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah. Thank you, Isabel, again.
Yeah, amazing. Amazing.
Well, thank you so much, Vaisesika Prabhu.
And a heartfelt experience.
This is where it gets a little wild.
This is where we start to move a little. Look, you can see Damodar Swarup. He's lost his material mind. Gopi is here. She's our youngest.
Gopi dancing?
Lieberman's our second youngest, but Gopi is our youngest Wisdom of the Sages fan.
Where's
Thanks
Gopi? I
for
can't
joining
find
us,
her.
everybody. We
there
have
she is.
over 110 people there today on Zoom, and the thousands that listen to us as the others out there. If you're one of the others and want to join us live on Zoom, you just email Mara, Wisdom of the Sages 108 at gmail.com. And if you have a story to tell, write it on Apple Podcasts, because we read everybody's stories. And as a matter of fact, you write it on Apple Podcast reviews, everybody reads your story. So share with us, or share your Krishna coincidence.
Miracles.
On Apple Podcast, because everybody's had a good Krishna coincidence. I'm having them every day. I had one with Kaustubha the other day. It's a Krishna miracle.
It's a miracle, not a coincidence. It's a miracle.
It's a Krishna miracle. And now's our time where we take that namaste, we open it up, we put it back together. I even get these guys. I fully trust Vegan Trucker. I trust
do too.
this man.
Even he's behind you right now.
Charles Wilson. David Charles Wilson, I love this man.
Hey, Mara, why don't you go around when people are dancing? Why don't you highlight the different people dancing?
That's a good idea.
Right?
I always call out the dancers, but you put
Let's
those.
see who's first on the list.
All right, I got to get back to gallery straight.
Oh, okay, we're in Germany.
Munich crew is dancing. Claire Weatherly, yes, and family is dancing.
Who's next, Mara?
Radhe